welcome. My name is Carla Durand, and on behalf of the Collegeville Institute for Ecumenical and Cultural Research and St. Benedict's Monastery, I would like to welcome each of you to this presentation tonight entitled The Joy Factor. My guess is that most of you learned about this lecture through campus advertisement, either a poster on a bulletin board or perhaps an electronic announcement. Well, I have been coordinating and advertising events such as this on the CSB and SJU campuses for a number of years, and I can't recall the last time I've had so many email responses about a lecture. People were saying things to me like,
"What is it?
This event looks great. I look forward to coming to this presentation. And will this lecture be videotaped?" And yes, it is. I'm not entirely sure what this says, but I have a thought that it might mean that people are looking for, seeking, yearning for more joy in their lives. And when we hear a title such as The Joy Factor, we anticipate a positive message that we hope can be a real antidote to the bad news syndrome which surrounds us every day on TV and in the newspapers. So tonight I have the real privilege of introducing our speaker, Jep Hostetler, who will share his thoughts with us on the notions of joy and cultivating joy in our lives. Here's a little bit more about Jep. Jep received his BA from Goshen College in Indiana, his PhD in anatomy at The Ohio State University, and received his postdoctoral training in anatomy and electron microscopy from Tufts University School of Medicine. Jep began his professional career as a human anatomy and histology instructor at the University of Kentucky, and from there went on to teach at the Ohio State University College of Medicine for nearly 30 years, where he earned multiple Teacher of the Year awards. Through those years, Jep taught in the Department of Anatomy, the Department of Preventative Science, the Preventative Medicine, the Department of Psychiatry, and the Ohio State University School of Public Health. For part of his career, he was the director of medical humanities and taught students about drug and alcohol abuse medicine. Jep's professional and civic memberships are many, and they include the Executive Secretary of the Mennonite Medical Association, the Columbus Mennonite Church Bread Justice Team, the Association for Medical Education and Research in Substance Abuse, Physicians for Social Responsibility, the Mennonite Health Association, the Pledge of Resistance Peacemaking Group, and interestingly enough, the International Brotherhood of Magicians from 1967 to the present day. And for 2 of those years, 1994 and 1995, Jep was the international president of that Magicians Brotherhood. His most recent books and articles include Humor, Spirituality, and Well-Being, and I do have copies of that article up here on the front table for anyone who is interested. Is Laughter Really the Best Medicine, which showed up in Sojourners in August 2011, and I have copies of that for those who are interested. He's the author of 10 Things Parents Should Know About Drug and Alcohol Abuse, and he is the author of The Joy Factor. Jep is currently serving as a resident scholar at the Collegeville Institute, where he is currently researching the intersections between humor, health, and spirituality. And for those of you who are sisters, you received a little yellow card that has a little more information about that project. And Jep is joined on this campus by his wife, Joyce, and together they celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary this past summer. Where is Joyce? Is she here? There she is. Both Jep and Joyce are active members in the Mennonite community and are participants in justice and peacemaking opportunities. Jep loves the outdoors and jogging. He has run 4 marathons, the last of which was when he was 65 years old. He is in demand as a magician and humorist in church and civic groups, conventions, and conferences. We are so fortunate that Jep and Joyce are with us through the end of this semester, and we hope that at some point their paths will bring us back to campus again. So please join me in welcoming Jep Hostetler.
Thank you. Wow. Sounds like I died, didn't it? What a wonderful introduction. I really appreciate it. I can tell you that this place has been one of the most hospitable places I have ever been. The Collegeville setting, the campus, students actually say good morning and hello, and I'm always amazed that they do that, and it's quite pleasant. When we came to Collegeville, as often happens, we saw a person that we knew. And it's not always good to see someone you know. Joyce and I lived in Evanston, Illinois for a year, where I worked at the laboratories in different parts of the city. And I would take the elevated railroad every day down into Chicago. Well, this particular day, I ran to the train. It was raining. I had no umbrella. And I sat down beside an elderly woman. I must tell you, my parents taught me to respect our elders. And I really, truly do. But the problem was her umbrella was between us on the seat. So I got off the train before she did, and I reached down and reflexively grabbed her umbrella. She grabbed my arm, and we struggled a little bit. Then I realized what I had done, and I asked her to forgive me, which she did. Well, that afternoon, my lovely wife called and said, would you please bring home all the umbrellas? You keep taking them to the office, and you leave them there. Bring the broken one, too. So I put the umbrellas under my arm. I got back on the train. You're ahead of me, aren't you? And who should I meet but this little old lady? She looked me right in the eye and she said, you've had a pretty good day of it, haven't you? So it's not always good to see someone you know. Tonight I'm going to speak of joy. I have no big answers. I only have experiences that have affected my life and my own spiritual journey and some of my interest in what humor does for us. You have in front of you a little card. If you'd be kind enough to look at the bingo side. Someone asked me if I knew anything about Catholics. I said, I know a Catholic word. And he said, what is that? And I said, bingo. So it wasn't very funny the last time I said it either. So you have a card. You'll notice there are 6 squares that are black, 6 squares that are lighter. So what I'd like to have you, cards back there, make sure everyone has a card. I want you to choose one black square, any one, either in your mind or with your finger. Put your finger on it, so we're going to move around a little bit on the card. So what I'm going to have you do is put your finger on one of those black squares. Okay, are you ready? Or just look at it with your mind and remember where you are. A few of the sisters do not have them yet, so we'll just wait a second. The Bible, by the way, is very clear on having a lot of words that have to do with joy, celebration, delight. Just a few, if you remember from reading, a cheerful heart is a continual feast. A lot of these come from Proverbs. That one's Proverbs. A cheerful heart is good medicine. Remember Ecclesiastes, a time to weep, time to mourn, a time to laugh. Weeping may linger for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalms 35. Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice. Philippians 4:4. Then our mouth was filled with laughter, and our tongues with shouts of joy. Psalms 126:2. Do not be grieved, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. And by the way, that statement, the joy of the Lord is your strength, I put on the back of my jacket as I ran my first marathon. I didn't know if it would help, but it was worth a shot. At about mile 17, I decided that I had hit the wall, and the cramps were very bad. And along came 3 young ladies. They caught up with me, and they said, oh, I see what's on your jacket. Would you like for us to pray for you? And I said, please. So as we were running, they prayed for me, and I made it to the end of the marathon. It wasn't pretty, but I made it. I don't know what the joy of the Lord had to do with it, but it seemed to work. Back to the card. Everyone has a card. Put your finger or your mind, select a square. Now move directly left or right to the nearest light square. You might have to cross over a dark square, but everybody should be on a light square. Move directly straight up or down to the nearest dark square. You may have to pass over a light square. So everybody should be on a dark square. Now, go diagonal, just one, up or down, to a light square. Finally, go left or right to the nearest dark square. Now, I want you to say out loud, quite loudly, where you are at this point. 1, 2, 3. Joy. Whoa! How cool is that? Everybody has joy tonight. Everybody has joy. But what is joy? Let's get down to business. Joy turns out, for me, to be much bigger than a component called happiness. Happiness to me is circumstantial. When things come together, your health is decent, you have enough to eat, you have shelter, you have friends, and then for about 8 seconds you're happy. Joy, on the other hand, is much deeper and much wider. I say it's an understanding that we know we're in the right place. We know that we have something sustaining us. And the key here is that we can be in a boat full of sorrow on this river of joy. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. So let's get down to work. My first point is very simple. Life is a gift. Now, as an anatomist, this is important to me. When you woke up this morning, this little muscle called the heart was beating faithfully. You didn't pay for it. You didn't earn it. And there it is, beating nicely. Thank you very much. And somehow it continues to do that. How many times does it do that in your lifetime? Well, here's a little secret for you. 1,000,000 seconds is about 12 days. If you started counting today, 1001, 1002, and you counted to 1,000,000, it would take you about 12 days. 1,000,000,000 seconds is 32 years. So if your heart beats 1 time a second, let's just say for average, it would mean that in 64 years it had beat over 2 billion times. And of course, if you make any motion at all or run up and down steps, it's much more. So on average, your heart has beat over 3 to 4 billion times before you go to the next life. That's a lot. And I'm very grateful for that. As a matter of fact, people of joy, I think, each day are grateful for this one day that we have. My father was a round mound of sound. Now that simply means, on side view, he was round. He was never unhealthy that we knew of, and he loved to laugh. But at age 72, he was painting on a barn. He was up on a step ladder, and his knees became weak and his feet were tingly, and something was terribly wrong. So what happened was, he made it to the pickup truck. He drove home. I was home that summer. He fell out of the truck, and he crawled on his hands and knees toward the house. He was very sick. So he said to my mom, and this is what happens when you have 7 children. He says, "Mother," that's what husbands call wives when you have 7 children, if you understand what I'm saying. "Call the doctor and get some help." Well, it turns out within 3 days, my father was completely paralyzed from his neck to his toes. You're familiar with it. It's Guillain-Barré disease. It strips the myelin from your nerves and it takes away your movement. But over time, you can get some movement back. So as a physical therapist came, over time, his fingers started moving in his wrists. And then his arms. And he had us put a pulley in the ceiling of the bedroom, and we put a rope over this pulley, and we made a sling out of metal and wire and stuff, canvas. And Dad could take the garden hoe, and he'd get a hold of one foot, and he'd put it in that sling, and then the other foot, he'd put it in the sling, and he'd pull his legs up and down a couple hundred times a day. I understand. This is chicken soup of the soul kind of thing. But where I'm going with this is this. He fought for his life, and he made it to age Well, I won't tell you how old when he died, but at age 75, he could drive a car. He couldn't stop it, but he could drive it. That's a little problem there. He lived to be about 85. Life is a gift. It's a simple, not new concept, folks. It's simply a reminder that each day we are to be grateful and joyful. In fact, there's a rhythm to it, a rhythm to our waking, our working. Your own precepts say we are dedicated to a daily rhythm of prayer and work as we praise God and witness to the dignity of God's creation. That's gratitude. And I'm not stretching it, or am I trying to be modeling? I sense gratitude in that phrase. Gratitude is what joyful people do. Number 2, life is sacred. Well, there's a new one. Here's how I learned about nonviolence. Our family were Mennonites. I still am a Mennonite. But one day, my 2 brothers, one older and one younger, would dream up things to do. Then I would be the one that would choose to do them for some reason. But we had these baby chickens called peepees, little fluffy baby chickens. And my older brother said, what would happen if you just hold up that little peepee chicken and you just boof him on the head with your finger? I'll bet he'd get dizzy, and then we can put him down and he'll run crooked. Wouldn't that be fun? I said, okay. So I became the boofy, all right? So I picked up this baby chicken and I boinked him on the head, dead as a doornail. Broke his little neck, and I was so sad. At that moment, my father came around the corner of the chicken house. He said, what happened to the chicken? I said, he fell over. He says, why? I said, I petted him too hard and he fell over. He said, you killed him, didn't you? I said, uh-huh. I was a skinny little kid, believe it or not. My dad picked me up by the shoulders. He took me over to a stump and he sat me down. Boom. And then he got in my face. And this is exactly what he said. We are nonviolent people! Scared me, I'll tell you what. And then came the lecture about how we as people of conscience do not harm animals. We do not harm people. We do not harm each other with our words or our actions. And that is seared into my head. It's much harder to carry out. When our daughter was molested, and she came to our bed at 6 in the morning weeping, she'd been taken into the bushes. My immediate reaction is, I want to kill him because I'm a human being. Where does that go? How do you work with that? How can life be sacred, and especially when it's your own kid? Without being melodramatic, I can just tell you that when you look at sacredness, it's not just our daughter or you, it's even the man that molested her. He has a sacred spot. He's done some evil things. He's wrong, and it's awful, and it's terrible, and all of that. But when we look at the other, I'm convinced that if we assume that we're made in the image of God, then each person is equally sacred. Period. No exceptions. And so people of joy look at the other and say, this one is as sacred as that one, and this one, and that one, and that one. Now, there's a lot of things politically that go around that, how we relate to each other and how we act. But that's my second point. The people of joy understand that life is sacred. Number 3, people of joy understand that life is difficult. Have you ever met someone that smiles all the time? I mean, his wife just died, his kid ran away, and house burned down. He said, how you doing, Freddie? He said, I'm just fine, thank you. He's lying. People of joy have the same pains as everybody else. We hurt, we suffer. And in fact, if you look around and you see some families suffer much more than others. Why is that? I don't know. It just seems one tragedy after another, all on top of the other. So we end up with a string of tragedies. And it happens to us. So that's where it comes in. That the joy hasn't left. But for the moment, thank you very much. I am not in a very good place. And I own that. And I will weep. And I will cry with you. Now, some of it we bring on ourselves. We do dumb stuff. For instance, Joyce and I decided to go trekking in Nepal. That should be fun. Trekking up the mountains. 2 weeks. Well, we arrived in Nepal. We decided to walk up the mountains. It's called the Annapurna Sanctuary. It's 1 week up and 1 week back. As we proceeded, I must tell you, I'm afraid of heights. I had no understanding of what that was going to mean. The next to the last day going up, we came around a corner, and there was this ledge. I think it was this wide. My wife says it was this wide. It's about 100 feet long going around the corner. Straight drop off about 800 feet. And I just stood there. And now this is not rational, but I thought, I can't do this. And I said, I want my mommy. And then I said the 23rd Psalm 4 times. Didn't help. And then the Sherpa said to him the words that mattered most. We will walk with you. So when we have different, and they had me face the mountain, one put one hand on one shoulder, and we shuffled sideways, and we went around the corner of the mountain. We made it. Not because I was brave, but because someone walked with me. So when we have these difficulties, one of our problems, I think, is we're so independent. We don't want to ask for help. We do not want others to know our problems. In a community like this, I would guess that's not true. I would guess you're willing to ask for help. I don't know. But I'm suggesting that when we have trouble, it's not a bad idea to ask others to walk with us. That's simple. Now, the heart of my... Oh, by the way, a fable of St. Francis of Assisi when he told Brother Leo that true joy comes not from success, but in rejection and suffering, which causes us to reflect on Jesus' pain and rejection. So we all suffer, life is difficult, but the joy has not left. Now, some of you are starting to nod off. Brought with me a little treat here. It's an old rope, okay? I raised it from a string, so that is so bad, isn't it? This is called a Robin Hood knot. Robin Hood, riding through the dale. Boink, and you got a knot. Or, if you take a rope, how's that for the people in the cheap seats? I'm going to be 80 years old, so in 7 years. So this is just an interlude because some of you are getting sleepy. It's called healing the ropes. Heal. Needs a little help. I can do this. And there it is, completely restored. Wow. This guy's good, I tell you what. Slight scar. Get rid of the scar and start all over again. No, don't. Number 4. Life is short. Now, this is important to me. In my learnings over time, one of the things I had to work at was accepting other people. I'm still working at it. These are called the 3 A's and the 3 R's from a book by David Augsburger called Caring Enough to Forgive. Ancient book. And he's given me permission. Acceptance. That's equal listening. Listening. You say in your own precepts, we strive to listen with the ear of our hearts. This last week, Father Luigi drew a little picture in our worship setting of an earth, and inside was the Japanese figures for listening with 14 hearts. And in service yesterday it said, the hymn said, open the ears of our hearts. Open the ears of our hearts. To hear the voices of all creation with compassion and reverence is what you say. That is acceptance. Acceptance is hard. Our daughter came down the steps for her 16th birthday. She had a beautiful dress, earrings, the whole deal, right-sized pantyhose, the whole deal. High heels. Her boyfriend came to the front door. I opened the door, and what I beheld: an orange tuxedo, green cummerbund, black and white checkered high-top tennis shoes, big earring, ponytail, and a streak of purple hair. I took one look at him and I said, acceptance, acceptance, acceptance. It's not that easy. It turns out he was one of the nicest young men you ever want to meet. What's the deal? Purple hair is not fatal. People of joy, when we meet and greet another, we are present. Nobody's a throwaway. Nobody. And it's hard because immediately we judge. Tattoos, piercings, we go, ooh, ee, ah, and they know. They know. So for me in my learning through the drug alcohol programs that I've taught, recovering alcoholics and people of that problem, they know if you're walking with them or it's downhill. Strong to weak, smart to dumb, rich to poor, saved to not saved, whatever language you want. The power is downhill. And when we accept people, it's straight across. We don't have to accept their behavior. My wife was the director of a teenage drug alcohol program for girls, 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds, addicted. Their language is awful. She never heard such things. And the rule was at her hospital, you can't touch the client. She said, I'm a mother. I'm a mother, and I'm a nurse. So she got the rule changed. At the right time, the right place, with permission, she said, come here. And the girl would come, and she'd open her arms like this. Not straight like this, so you have to turn sideways, because we often do this. We will love you if you do it just right. She would say, come here. And they would come to her bosom, and she would encircle them with her arms, and she would rock them. And she would say, you know, your behavior really stinks. But guess what? I think you can make it. And each one of them knew instinctively that they were accepted. Period. So, here I got to preaching. Sorry. So the issue here is acceptance. The other piece of acceptance is that it's hospitality in spades. Acceptance is hospitality. And there you go again. We seek to respect all persons and to welcome them with warmth. Warmth, acceptance, and joy. It's right in your stuff. When I started getting the speech, I said, they're writing my speech for me. How good is that? Second A, we got to move along. Second A is about being available. And I don't mean every little piddly thing. I mean really available. We had in our home 7 children, and always a foster child or 2. So you get the picture. That's a lot of oatmeal. And what happened was one of the little ones, her name was Debbie, about 9, 10. And Debbie always colored outside the lines. I mean, really outside the lines. She'd run away from home. She learned how to swear. She'd go steal cigarettes from the neighbors. She'd drink my dad's elderberry medicine that was down in the basement, all kinds of things. So they'd bring her home, and they'd scold her and maybe spank her, which I don't believe in, but they spanked. And she'd get all straightened out. She grew up and moved to Columbus, Ohio, where I lived. And she got in trouble with different men, and so she had 3 children from 3 different men. And she was on welfare, and she lived in this little ramshack of a house. And one night she called, and she said, Jeppy, would you come down here and help me kill the rats? See, my name is Jep, which is short for Jephthah, but everybody called me around Jeppy Dad, Jeppy. Would you help me kill the rats? Because my mattresses are on the floor, and when the children go to sleep, the rats come out and they bite the children's toes and make them bleed, and I'm scared of rats. Would you come help me kill the rats? I hate rats almost as much as Cliff's. But I got in my little car. It was a Volkswagen at the time. I drove down to Debbie's house and went in and got a broomstick, fearless, nonviolent warrior, looking for rats under the stove and under the refrigerator, banging around. I went into the bathroom, and there on the bathroom floor was a disposable diaper with holes chewed in it. I knew they were around. Behind me was a bathtub full of dirty clothes. So I put the stick under the clothes, and I raised up the clothes. Cockroaches, hundreds of cockroaches. I hate cockroaches too. And then I went to the stair door. Going downstairs, I opened the door. Sound effects, whatever. And there in front of me were two wooden shelves, right? Going down, you can see them. And I remembered at that moment what my father told me years earlier. He said, if you ever meet a rat on a shelf, don't blow on it because it'll jump on your face and bite you. Did any of your parents ever tell you that? Why would he have told me that? And why did I remember it at the moment? Make a long story short. I went down to the basement. I found the hole where the rats were coming in. We fixed the hole, set the traps. The next day we had 4 dead rats. Got them all. What's the deal? The deal is this. If you're to be available, sometimes we have to go when we least want to go. And the person that needs the tender touch the most is the most obnoxious. Those of us who are married, we know about these things. When do they need the tender touch? When things are out of kilter. So that when we look at the other and say, I'll be there for you, there's something about meaning it that really means it. That's why I think people of joy are available. Number 3, authenticity. I think it's important to try to be real. It's taken a long time in my life to figure that out, and I'm still not totally real, and I don't think anybody is. But the older we get, the more we understand you're going to be like your father, Jep, no matter what you want to say about it, or you're going to be this way or that way. Carry it. Own it. And as this authenticity starts creeping out, celebrate it. Look around you. Look at the sisters. Look at the monks. Each one has become this authentic thing that when you meet them, there's no fake. There's no fake. That's kind of cool. And so, my mom was authentic, okay? She never liked the beard. That was hippie days. And she'd say, when are you going to shave off that old beard, Jep? I said, Mom, it's just a beard. Oh, come in. I love you anyway. Are you still doing magic? Uh-huh. You're not going off to the dark side, are you? I said, no, Mom. In the second marathon, she wrote me a letter saying, Dear Jeppy, I understand you memorize stuff when you're running. Here's some Bible verses you should know. And she wrote out a Bible verse for each letter of the alphabet that she memorized when she was 11 years old. But guess what? She didn't know there's 26 miles in a marathon. So I had a verse for each mile. That's authentic. That's real. Going to move along. 3 R's. Life is short. Remember, we are to be accepting. I'm just inviting us, things I'm learning about this, and be available and to be authentic. Now, the 3 R's. This is important. We have a lady in our church who has cerebral palsy a bit, and her hands don't work as well as some, and she loves for me to tell you this story. We have sharing time in our congregations. It's not exactly high church in terms of what I've seen here and have learned to enjoy. So she came up to the microphone. She said, could I share my poem? Of course, Anita. And this is what she did. Love is a beautiful thing. Let's spread it all over. Love is catching on. Let's pass it on, Anita. And it was quiet, nobody knew what to do. And then one of the older ladies in the back went. And then an older gentleman, a wise old man. Pretty soon there's a standing ovation. And Anita's standing there, your wife is not his stuff, because she was so impressed that people liked her poem. But that's not all. Someone took that poem home, and they ironed it. And they put it on the piano, and a little song came out. It goes like this. Love is a beautiful thing. Let's spread it all over. Love is catching on. Let's pass it on. pass it on, pass it on. Now, when Anita's sad, all she has to do is say, will somebody sing my song? 180 people, 200 people stand to their feet and sing this song by memory. But that's not all. We've done that for 35 years. Recognition with a big R. People of joy recognize each other's steps. The second R is reinforcement, which Ephesians says is encouragement. And people of joy encourage each other, and they mean it. It's not fluff. They say to children, aren't you pleased with yourself, with what you just did, as opposed to I'm proud of you. It's my own bias. Say to the child when they do something well, aren't you pleased? I had a mentee who tried to get into a play, and he was just awful, and he didn't get in. So he came and he says, oh man, I didn't get into the play. And I said, yeah, but aren't you pleased you had the guts to try out? Aren't you pleased? They don't all get A's or even B's. But we can support them with recognition and reinforcement. And the third R is respect. And that is right smack in the middle of one of your statements. Community. We are committed to respecting each individual, forming stable relationships, receiving counsel from the community, and affirming common good. That's what you are. So life is short. 3 A's, 3 R's. They're in the back of your card. You can look at them later. We must move along. Life is funny. This is the fun part, folks. This is why you came. You know, Benedict had a little different twist on it. You know, he said in RB 759, the 10th step of humility is that he is not to be given to ready laughter. For it is written, only a fool raises his voice in laughter. One wise St. John monk clarified it for me by saying, well, St. Benedict was from another anthropology. That was good enough for me. My work here at the Institute is I'm seriously studying the effects of humor and laughter on the human body, whether it's physical, mental, psychological, or social. And it's too big. So I'm narrowing it down to, are there really good scientific evidences that humor does good things to our bodies? Because it's weak. A lot of speakers go around saying, you know, you smile and laugh to cure your cancer and all stuff. Well, it's good for you. We know that. So that I'm doing that work of with your fabulous library here, drilling down into the science behind those issues to find out if what's there today in 2012. So that's serious library work. The second part is called qualitative research, and thanks to Jennifer. Where's Jennifer? Helping me out with this, bless your heart. This part of my interest in humor is about a possible relationship between humor and spiritual development or spiritual understanding. Is there a link? To do this research, I'm interviewing monks and sisters about their spiritual development. I have 7 questions I ask, and it's fun, and it's all anonymous, and so I'm asking the monks and sisters to help me with that. So that's just a little side commercial. So in the meantime, funny. Some people say, I don't mind if he's funny, but he better not be silly. Well, you judge for yourself. This is a portable cow. These are not legs. I grew up on a farm. If you take a cow and you turn it upside down, you go, book, 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 you have a chicken. Now, for you sisters who have nieces and nephews, you should take a towel. You can do this for fun and profit. You roll the towel up like this. And you roll this like this. And the sad thing is, this is the only thing you're going to remember about the whole speech. Then you fold it together, pull these out, and you should stick out your tongue when you do this because it works a little better. And then once you get these out, you have those 4 thingies, okay? Then you do the 2 top and 2 bottom. If you do it wrong, you get alligator. Not impressive. You need to turn a quarter turn and then unroll it. If you do it slowly, you have a slow motion chicken. Then you let the legs fly, and you point and go book, book, and adults will go ha, 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 ha. Or not, you know. I'm going to have Joel help me with this next one. Young man, let's stand in this chair. Okay, look at the audience. Smile big. Stick out your right hand. Stick out your right hand. There you go. Pull up your sleeve. Now, what we have here is a papa rabbit and a mama rabbit. Remember, life is funny. You're going to have to pay attention here, okay? I'm going to put them in your hand. Close your hand tightly, okay? Look at it. Look at it. Close your hand tight. Close, close, close. On a count of 3. What's your name? Leo. I called you Joel. That's not right. Leo's your name. Okay. Leo, on a count of 3, I want you to open your hand. Now, don't pass out on me, okay? 1, 2, 3. Open your hand. Whoa! 5 babies. Congratulations, Dad. You want to pick those up for me? Thank you. No, I won't pay you. I'm sorry. It's all volunteer. And this one is for the adults. I do a lot of flying. And on the planes, they give you these free bags. They hold stuff. And they don't leak either. I sat down beside a nun. Now, this is true. She didn't have on a habit or anything, but we got to talking. And I could tell she was frightened. So I asked her, what's the trouble? And she said, well, I've never flown before, and I'm afraid. I said, you shouldn't be afraid, because you have connections, right? She said, yes, but he's never flown either. You know what I mean? Excuse of those of you who have seen this before. So I said to her, the Bible says, I'll be with you always. She said, that's not what it says. It says, lo, I'll be with you always. She had a point. Oh, here we go. Deck of cards, ma'am. We've never met before, have we? I mean, we haven't met before tonight. Yeah. No, stay where you are. We've not. You seem happy about that. What Just take this deck of cards. They're invisible. Quickly. Catch them. Shuffle them real quick. No, you got to take them out of the box. She's shuffling the box. Let this gentleman take a card. Do you mind, sir? Real quickly, take a card. Just one. Can you tell one card from another? Because I did this for some Amish boys, and they picked the King of Queens. That's not a card. So you have one. Show everybody real quick. We got to move along. Okay. Oh, I almost saw it. That's good. Now turn it upside down and put it back in her outstretched hands. All right? Ma'am, will you put it in the box? Okay. Now just throw it here. Overhand, overhand. Whoa! You're pretty good, actually. Now, before I came tonight, I turned one card backwards, and one card only. Ooh, wouldn't it be scary if it's the same card you saw? Now your pressure is on. What card did you see? Am I going too fast? Just make up something.
3
Of?
Diamonds.
Diamonds. 3 of diamonds. Ooh, would you like to change your mind? Let's take a look. I am going to be so shocked because 3 of diamonds is never, never, ever picked. Let's see here. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. That looks like the 3 of diamonds. Does that look like the 3 of diamonds to you? Wait, wait, wait. I made sure because it's the only blue card. Thank you for picking the 3. That would have ruined my whole trick. And we've never talked about this, so thank you. Finally, I wasn't going to do this, but you'll understand later why. No, it's okay. He stays in there. He's trained. Don't worry. And one time, remember, life is funny. One time I went to a restaurant, a fancy restaurant with the white towels and stuff, and I took Rufus with me, and I said, he loves to eat lettuce. He was just eating lettuce. He loves lettuce. And so the maitre d' says, sir, you know how they do, We're not allowed to have live animals in here. I said, no live animals. No problem. He's not hurt. He's just stunned. He's in on the act. Wake up. See, he's just fine. My wife said, you're not going to do that animal thing, are you? These sisters are very kindly people, and they know Assisi, so don't you go there. So life is funny, and it turns out it is good for us, and take time out from our stresses. Finally, life is a spiritual journey. It's really quite precarious to come into this room and talk about spirituality. So I won't. You do say in your precepts or your values, we acknowledge the primacy of God and seek to follow Christ in the ordinary events of every day. The spiritual disciplines, of course, are part of everyday routine for a lot of people. From prayers to meditation, to lectio divina, to singing, silence, individual preferences for seeking divine wisdom, understanding. And the choices, I think, for people who are seeking joy are simple. You can choose to go a way that seeks and continues to seek in your own way. I cannot tell you how to do it. Because of the great gift of being individuals, we have to find our way to do that has integrity. Or we can ignore that kind of pursuit. We can sit on the couch and let days go by, weeks and months, when we have not considered any possibilities of seeking bigger wisdom. Or in this tradition that we're in here, you can seek to understand God as you know Him or her with diligence. Pursue that part of your life. But not really pursue, but allow it to come to you. So there's all kinds of shapes of how you pursue spirituality. But I know one thing for sure. You should never say that. But I'm fairly certain that the people who I know who express this thing I call joy take time to stop and listen in some fashion. It could be in the forest. It could be in their craft, as Sam is teaching us. It could be simply studying or listening to music, but being quiet and shutting out the electronic noise that crowds in on us each day. That's how I see it. So this has been a simple little lesson, if you will. Looking at life being a gift and celebrating each day, just say, yes, it's juicy. Don't let it go by, participate. 2, life is sacred. See it in the other. Look for it in each individual. Welcome them into you and talk with them. 3, life is difficult. Find help, seek help, be a helper, walk with. And then the major part was on life being short. I talked about being available, being authentic, and accepting people. And then I talked about Anita, how we recognize her small steps and how we reinforce what she's about. And we really respect each other. And then I did a little thing about being funny, just because I like to be funny. And it's good for us. And life is a spiritual journey. I have 2 things I'd like to do to close. One is a trick, a big trick. I'm going to float out of the room. Wouldn't that be something? That'd be talked about for a long time. And then I'll close with a serious poem that has become dear to my heart. This is today's New York Times. And I want you to look at the pictures and remember. This is easy to remember. Big face. No colored pictures. A lot of you learn by hearing, right? And a lot of you learn by seeing. Color. Purple. You can't miss it. Big wristwatch. I don't know in these days and times why any of them need a $10,000 wristwatch. colored pictures in the front. Now, for those who learn by hearing, this sounds like it's being torn. You hear the ripping sound? And for those who see visually, it looks like it's being torn into strips. It does from up here, at least. Some people say, I could have sworn you're tearing it up. I said, no, I'm tearing it down. Pieces, scraps, shards. The man who taught this to me taught it to Lou Holtz and to David Copperfield. True story. And it's really cool if I could do it. There's a slight problem. I can't do it. But it looks good so far, you know. If I could do it, it would look like this. Now, a lot of people clap at this point. Some don't. You know how it is. They're just so stunned. So that when it comes all back together, this is truly what my mother worried about. Let me finish. Let me finish with my poem. I got to meet the author of this poem in Columbus, Ohio, and I told her that I used this poem. She said, fine. Don't print it, give it out. Just use it. And of course, it's my Angelo. Everybody closes with my Angelo. But this one's special to me. It's called Touched by an Angel. It goes like this. We unaccustomed to courage, exiles from delight, live coiled in shells of loneliness, till love leaves its high holy temple and comes into our sight and liberates us into life. Love arrives, and in its train come ecstasies, old memories of pleasure and ancient histories of pain. Yet if we're bold, love strikes away the chains of fear from our souls. And we are weaned from our timidity in the flesh of love's light, and we dare be brave. And suddenly we discover love costs all we are or ever will be. But it's only love that sets us free. Thank you. Sure.
We have a little time for a few questions or comments. If anybody has anything they'd like to check in with Jep on.
I'd love it. This one article that was in Sojourners, this Sojourners article, one of the things that happens to people who are serious about working with peacemaking and justice or trying to engage the hurts of this world is they get really intense because they see so much pain. They see so much devastation, and they're invested. We've got to move this forward. We have to be present, and they get tired and weary. So this article is about taking a time out, and it speaks to the issue of Christian peacemaker teams in Colombia who work so hard to get farmland back for the farmers, so hard to bring justice to the scene, and so they don't laugh a lot. And we got to talk to some of them. They finally found a way to crack up. So they sat under this tree, and they told stories about their nicknames, and they began to laugh. And it was so cathartic that they laughed till they wept. And that evening, they were telling each other about the story. They laughed again and wept again. The next morning, the trouble was right there in front of them again. You can pick it up and go again. Serious work. Take a time out. So this article is about taking a time out. It's not a scholarly piece. It's just my ideas about what humor can do to give us a break. Same thing for stress. You can't wipe out your stresses, but you can take a time out. So, questions? Thoughts? Yes?
Senator Eugene McCarthy was in the monastery with us for 9 months before he asked him to leave.
Well, that's funny all by itself. So.
He said, what was the most important lesson he learned from the Benedictines
Yeah. And at our age, my age, one good thing is I know I'm not going to die young. So that's good. Thoughts about this, because when you talk about humor and spirituality, it's hard to mix them. Father James Martin has a wonderful new book called Between Heaven and Mirth. And his take on it has to do with moving away from the use of humor into using the word laughter or joy, because humor is hard to measure. If you ask a person a question, does God have a sense of humor? They say, well, that's hard to get a hold of. That's difficult. Thoughts? I do appreciate some of you staying up pretty late. I understand. I read the website. There are 12 of you who've been here 60 years, and 2 of you who've been here 75 years. So that's a long run, and I appreciate whoever you are coming. So, okay. One question. Oh, thank you, sir. Well, you look like one. What? To make fun. You mean, like, you don't say something just for jest. And I think the thinking behind that is from the New Testament, where it says you should not be given to frivolity, and let your yes be yes and your no be no. And I think, and in my tradition, there are articles about you should not be given to laughter. And that means because Christianity is supposed to be a serious thing. You take it seriously. I'm not Catholic, nor am I Benedictine, so I can't say more about that. It'd be nice if you ask monks, because they have a wonderful sense of humor. So what do they do with that, his writing? Is that what you're asking? Yeah, I can't answer that. I wish I could. Father Wilford's here. He knows everything. Do you have any comments on that? He doesn't know. He don't want to get in trouble. I do know this, that your family background, how you were raised, has a lot to do with how you appreciate humor. And the new research is showing that there's a genetic predisposition as well, that you may be predisposed to be lighthearted or not so much. And there's all kinds of physical things we're learning now about what happens to your arteries, what happens to the chemicals in your brain. It's really exciting research, so hoping I'm done, I can write something up. You're welcome. Thank you.